Mr. Devesh Agrawal, every time there's a crash, there's something which is spoken about the aviation industry, particularly in Nepal. There are so many allegations that keep surfacing every time, every now and then. Whether it be about the aging aircraft that's being used, whether it is about the poor maintenance, the training, there are so many aspects. And it's a mushrooming industry, as we've been told many times. Every time there's a crash, all of this crops up. Why is this such a big challenge, and why is it important not to see this as just a Nepal's problem?
Firstly, thank you so much for having me. Nepal, is suffering from not one issue, or this is not as Captain Amit Singh was saying. We need to get to the root cause. Thing with Nepal is you've got mountainous terrain. Mountainous terrain automatically limits the size of the airport because you don't have too much flat land available. So you see, even in India, the unfortunate times there have been crashes in the sub-Himalayan regions, the Indian Air Force and all. We have seen helicopters crash. It's been because of bad weather. We of course lost our chief of defense staff also in a bad weather accident. So one is weather. The other is Nepal's airlines got very badly hit post-COVID. By the COVID pandemic. So their financial health has not been good. And lastly, as you pointed out, the regulator does not have the best of reputations. And so these three things are just showing up more in Nepal because I guess a little bit more of geography, a little bit more of the financial issues. But I mean, if you see, similar allegations have been levied against the Indian civil aviation, administrative and regulatory system. And I'm quite sure Captain Amit will bear me out. There are reasons for concern in this country also.
Captain Amit Singh, do you see this? Do you see merit to that? Do you think India has lessons to learn from this, or is it a neighborhood problem alone?
In aviation, we learn from everybody. So the saying goes that you won't live long enough to make it yourself. So learn from others' mistakes. If you look at India per se, we've had major accidents in Mangalore and Calicut. So the recommendations of those investigation committees have not been implemented till date. So if something happens again, then who is to blame for that? Because knowing very well that we have not implemented certain safety.
That's an important point you're saying, barriers. Captain Amit Singh. Could you spend a minute on that? Could you help us understand what were these important? I don't expect you to go through all of them, but the big recommendations or the major recommendations that were made in these reports and that you see have not been implemented. This is important that people know about this.
In Calicut, if you see, there is a thing called runway end safety area, RESA, for if the aircraft overshoots. But the regulation requires that it has to be on both sides of the runway. If the aircraft undershoots, then there should be a stretch of land wherein which could take the impact of the aircraft. And again, for the overshoot part. In Calicut, there is only for the overshoot of both the runways. So the recommendation was that if land cannot be acquired to extend the runway, then the length of the runway should be shortened so as to make that portion available. So that hasn't been done till date. It's been so many years now. And every monsoon, this happens. So monsoon conditions are such in Calicut that the visibility is impaired. It is what we call a black hole approach, that we don't have surrounding lights. The pilots do not have depth perception. The clouds are low. So everything is against the pilot. So any layman would understand that if there are constraints, then we should have better safety systems. Here we have constraints, but we have given exemptions to safety systems. For example, if the aircraft veers to the side of the runway, there is inadequate land as per the regulations. So we have given exemption, the DGCA has given exemption that, okay, if we will limit the crosswind conditions. So the airport will shut down if the crosswinds are more than this. So things such as safety barriers can be installed, which was recommended long before, and even after Mangalore, there was a big hue and cry. And after Calicut, what surprised me was the statement of the ministry that it would be difficult to maintain that safety barrier in case there is damage. So we will not install it. So it is like saying that we will not install the seat belt because the seat belt might get frayed due to use. So that is the kind of logic we have. So there is no vision, there is no thought. So people are still waiting that if something happens, then we will see. So we are not proactive or predictive that we should do something to prevent, but we wait for something to happen, then we take measures. So that is called basically resilience. We say we are resilient, but we don't learn from that. That we learn from our mistakes and make sure
You're
that
making
doesn't
such
happen
an
again.
important point,
Mistakes
Captain
keep on
Amit
happening again
Singh.
and again.